Welcome to an Ugly Extra podcast. It is Jamie of The Ugly Truth with producer Dub.
Hello.
And Tyler, my son, but also from the podcast Film Class, Middle Class.
You did it wrong right out of the gate. We just told you what it was called.
Class. Wait, Tyler, tell us.
Hey guys, middle class film class host here, Tyler.
All right. Yes. Apologies.
That's actually my fault because I tried to mess you up.
You did. We are here this evening. We are moments out of the theater. We just saw Star Wars 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker. We all have our opinions. We all have our thoughts on the process. So initially, y'all didn't want to do it because there's a lot to absorb. Now, I am not like you guys. I'm not a super critical film person like Tyler over here with his film review podcast where they really break it down.
We're going to right brain, left brain this thing, he and I.
Producer Dub has a different perspective on the Star Wars franchise because he has been seeing these films since he was 7 years old in the movie theater. So this is a nostalgic, emotional, a little more emotional. You've read all the books, the canon, all of the extras that go in the Star Wars world, so you have a different perspective. And then I'm a girl who likes Star Wars, and I do enjoy it, but I am not as critical nor as nostalgic. So it'll be an interesting breakdown of how we felt about this movie. So what's the overall general feeling of the movie is this. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I was not confused. It definitely, I thought it was going to be more predictable than it was. I was surprised by a couple of things, which was great. We're going to try to not do spoilers, but there's spoilers. There's going to be spoilers.
It subverted your expectations?
I would say that it was exactly what I expected for the franchise. And it's not a negative for me. For me, that's not a negative. Tyler, are you saying it's negative?
So you know that GIF, I don't know if you guys know this GIF, there's a GIF on the internet where it has the high school football player saying, well, they got me in the first half. And it's usually a response to like something really cool like in the beginning.
Right.
And then they just kill it in the end in a bad way.
Yes.
So that's how I feel. They had me in the first half.
Now that's interesting because most people hated the first half.
No, the first half was great.
What, okay, and honey, producer, Dub, what do you think? What was your overall feeling about it?
The one thing that I think I've read so far that I actually agree with and came from somebody who actually is like same age as me, is a Star Wars nut, things like that. I didn't agree with his overall, like the fact that he even went online and reviewed it. It's like, you spent 40 years of your life watching these movies.
Right.
To me, there's these... Well, let me take a step back. There's two ways for me to look at this. One is, like, I have a friend who the only two Star Wars... And he's older than me. And the only two Star Wars movies he's seen is the very first one and Rogue One, which he had the audacity to go online and say how he didn't understand the plot. Of course you didn't understand the fucking plot. It's Rogue One. If you don't know anything about Star Wars, Rogue One makes no sense to you whatsoever.
Right.
Like, you saw the worst movie to see if you've never seen another Star Wars movie.
Interestingly, though, Rogue One is one of the best Star Wars canon films of all time.
I'm not talking about the quality of it.
I'm aware.
It literally is a mini story within a mini story within a story of the canon, and you've seen nothing else, and you go online and you say, I didn't get it.
It was a bold move on Disney's part to release that movie.
You know what? You can't see that and not have seen the original Star Wars. Like, it's very, very confusing. Anyway, so I guess there's these two camps, right? There are people that are, movie people and things like that. And to me, and this is, take it for what it's worth, there has never been a bad Star Wars movie for me.
For you.
I don't look at them that way.
Right.
I've never walked out of a movie theater seeing a Star Wars movie and didn't like it or hated it.
Right.
Like, even the Jar Jar Binks shit, I don't care. Like, I enjoy them. If I walk out, because I don't look at them critically, I look at them like, did it move the canon? Was the action good? Do I care about or give a shit about the characters? I am incapable, and maybe that's why I didn't want to do this show originally, because I told you on the way home, I was not comfortable with I had this gut feeling that I don't want to sit here and talk about whether it was good or not. Because I
because you
don't give a
loved
crap. Like,
Right,
it can't be
right.
bad to me.
Well, see,
So-
that's kind of how I am too, but I also thought it would be really interesting having three very different perspectives on the Star Wars franchise sit and talk about this movie. Now, for me, it's very emotional. I absolutely cried, but that's because Chewbacca was mourning the loss of Princess Leia,
Yeah.
and when that happened, I started weeping.
Yeah.
But that's the part of me
when
where
animals are sad in movies, it's bad.
Can I just say, first of all, they tricked us into thinking that Chewbacca got killed,
Yeah.
and then he did it. Now, to me, I was like, there is no way.
It was a little too easy for him to die that way. Yeah,
there was no way. Although
It wasn't dramatic enough for a character that's been,
for 40
from
years.
day one, right?
Although I will say that a year ago they said, no, be prepared. This is going to be a dark film. And I thought they're going to kill everybody. The Millennium Falcon's going to die. It's going to go
you know what?
away.
That might happen if Johnson directs.
Yeah.
There's no way that happens when J.J. Abrams directs.
Yeah,
I don't know about what you feel about that, but there's no question that
if they were saying this was gonna be the darker movie of the three, that was a incorrect assumption. I think
Agreed.
I did not like The Last Jedi at all, but what I did appreciate was that it wasn't afraid to be risky, and it was executed in the wrong way, but.
But was it risky though, Tyler, or was it just risky in comparison to other Star Wars movies?
It was risky.
Like not in the field of risky movies,
and
but
not even in lore wise, just
Yeah.
in filmmaking wise,
Yeah.
and like being in a continuity
Yeah.
aspect. That's where it was risky. As far as the lore goes, I mean, it was expected.
Here's what I didn't like about the movie, because there was something.
Oh, okay.
This should have been 2 separate movies or 1 4-hour movie.
Really?
Yeah, in my mind,
Yeah.
because I think that I felt like we were like, you liked the first half, and I didn't.
Right.
I liked all of it, so I'm fine with it. But the one thing that I thought about the first half, I was like, shit, we are in it, and I feel like I've been watching it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel like the buildup of the whole the Palpatine thing and all that was there.
Yeah.
It was like he was in the first 5 minutes of the movie. That was weird to me.
Yeah, that was very
it didn't
jarring.
feel
Yeah.
it didn't feel like build up to it like
How
I
did
thought.
he even get
So-
there? Like,
and
they
and
didn't
I
even
think it's
answer.
because they needed to. 9 was it, man.
Yeah.
Because again, if you go back to the last movie, it was a long movie that didn't make a ton of progress in the storyline.
Yeah.
I think if Abrams, not to blame Johnson, but if Abrams decides to do all 3 and from the beginning knows where they want to go with all 3, these all feel more paced out. I feel like at the end of the day, while Last Jedi was what it was, it took longer for Last Jedi to get a shorter amount of time than this movie did. And you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah.
they were both
Yeah.
the same length, I feel like the third one had to cover everything, because there was a definite we have to end it here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it
that's true.
felt like it was so, and this is the one thing that I would say everybody's saying about the movie, whether you like it or don't like it so far, is it's a lot.
There was a lot
a
was
lot.
going on. You definitely had to consume a lot of plot points very
Yeah.
quickly.
And I think the other thing that I watched this wrong.
Oh.
Because I watched it with the nostalgia in mind and wanted to catch all the things that connected to the other movies rather than really kind of watching it for itself. And I think that the first time you watch it, you should watch it for yourself and then go back and try and catch
Sure.
all the little things.
Sure.
Because again, if we're in spoiler land, like I
Yeah.
told you, my absolute favorite thing like that seemed very inconsequential.
Yeah.
But Chewie getting a medal at the end
Oh, yeah.
is a big deal, because if you watch the very first movie, that was back in the 70s, that was the thing we did, was like, why didn't fucking Chewie get a medal?
Yeah,
like
I immediately knew.
Han and Luke
you?
got a medal, but she didn't give him a medal. And then of course Princess Leia wants Chewie to have this medal after she dies. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's amazing, and it's like this 8-millisecond
Like,
portion
there
of the
should have
movie.
been a little bit more for
Right,
There
and
should
like,
have been. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
think it was interesting though. I predicted nothing correctly about the movie.
I didn't either.
Until we were in the movie. Like, I was
Okay.
catching. It wasn't a lot. I mean, the only thing that's really
Catch
shocking.
on really fast.
Catch
on really fast.
Well, like, I knew that was
especially.
Lando. I knew it was like I was
Question-
catching and moving quickly, but
I am
except for the
curious.
Palpatine.
I am curious, Tyler, were you like me the second that she used her force so severely that blue lightning came out of her hand that she was a Palpatine?
Well,
Because he's the only other character who's ever done it.
I already predicted that.
Oh, did you?
That,
See, I hadn't heard
going
that.
into the movie, I was like, okay, like
She's
this-
obviously not a Skywalker.
because knowing J.J. Abrams and his filmmaking style, he always does like the obvious, subverting your expectations.
Sure.
So
So you had a feeling she was Palpatine before the lightning came out of her hand?
no, like when I was walking into the theater, I was fully prepared to find out, and then when I did find that out, I was like, oh my god, okay. Which, so I agree with you is that the universe of Star Wars, like the stories, like because I've read the books, like I've read the comics, like I'm into the world of Star Wars. And so, in a way, I agree with you that I've not seen a bad Star Wars movie. But I would have to say the Disney trilogy really makes it hard for me not to enjoy it. Because I think I feel like there is much more legitimate world building in the prequels. I'm not defending the prequels in any way. As if my listeners are listening, I'm not defending the prequels. But I do appreciate the world building in it. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate there was a set universe before Disney bought it. And then I feel like that kind of went out the window in this movie in a way. Okay, if we're in spoiler land, Anakin did not show up in this movie. And that was the whole point of the saga. Like, we heard his voice saying, do what I did and bring balance to the Force, but it's that line in itself, like, he did not bring balance to the Force.
I feel like bringing Darth back would have been almost like...
Well, but it would have been...
At that point, just fucking have Jar Jar come in the movie,
but
too.
It would have been...
It's just, like, it would have been,
but Anakin
to me...
was the chosen one.
Anakin was the chosen one. He was the one that went to the dark
side. But there isn't one chosen one.
Well,
right? It doesn't
Palpatine
work that
chose
way.
him,
There
though.
are cycles that come to this, right? So...
Yeah.
Interestingly, as far as the canon goes, was there ever discussion that Palpatine had offspring? So
No.
Definitely not in the movies.
No,
I don't recall anything in the books
movies.
or anything like that ever happened.
No, it's not.
But you know what?
Either.
It was one of those things. This was one of those things where it was like, here's the thing: you knew that she had relatives,
obviously,
that had the Force,
obviously,
and
yes.
The only one, that's why it was kind of like, God damn it, when I saw it, because it was like, I really should have known it, because it would have been way obvious that if there was some kind of connection and she ended up being the long lost sister of Ben or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like connection to the title of the movie, it was all misdirection, right? Like, because the reality is that, and here's the thing, this is the thing that I definitely did not like, is I wanted them to give me more time to figure out she was a Palpatine.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when she did the lightning, if I had even 15 minutes of movie time, I'd have been like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Right?
It
but
was so
it was almost
fast.
like they did it, and then 2 minutes later, you're a Palpatine. It's like, God damn it.
And everyone knew.
Let me figure that out for myself, or at least try to.
Freaking stupid Finn, who still doesn't have a real job. He's
You don't like Finn.
He's co-chairing a job. Still, to this day, he knew she was a Palpatine.
So well, they found out, right? They didn't.
He said Leia knew, and I'm like, how do you know? You dork. You don't even have a job.
Luke said that.
Well, it's annoying.
Yeah. So there was a couple of things. Okay, so.
What this movie would have been? This would have been the good sequel to The Force Awakens.
Right. See, this would have been good. Like, they could have. If they had split this up into 8 and 9 with a little bit of the Last Jedi storyline in it.
The Last Jedi could have been the second plot in Empire.
Right. Like, I think
they had it all set up.
So here's the thing that I will say. If I'm being, since we're on a review kind of motif, the definite thing that stuck out to me was that, one, we never resolved Finn's feelings for Rey.
Right.
He started to say
my
something when
God,
he's
you're
sinking
right.
in the
He-
sand
they
and then
never-
never reapproached it. He asked him, what did you
my
say? But they
God.
never actually finished it.
I
Even,
can't
and I
believe it.
thought
Yeah,
for
I
sure at the end when they did the group hug,
He
I
would
thought
tell
for
her.
sure there was going to be something. But no, nothing. They just left it
Wow,
there. So
yeah.
Finn never really gets resolved in terms of his relationship.
No. But they set up so many. There were so many potential mates for him, and it was very clear that she was pair bonded with Kylo Ray. She was
Kylo
never
Ren.
Ren. Hey, that's their couple name.
Kylo Ray. Yeah, that's
Kylo
like
Ren.
Benifer.
Benifer, yeah. Well, although, and I mean, look, I love that Harrison Ford was in it. I loved that the symbolic death of Kylo Ren came and went. I loved all of that part.
Yeah.
I wish that we had been able to see a little more redemption outside of the final battle.
It was pretty immediate, though.
Here's what I
Yeah.
will tell you, and Tyler, you weren't in the, because Tyler, he went by himself, met us there, but on the ride back, we barely got out of the parking lot, and I was like, Malia, did you know? Malia, our daughter, was there too. Did you notice the Harry Potter connections?
Oh yeah.
Because one,
Parents sacrificed themselves.
her parents sacrificed themselves to keep them away from the bad guy, which is essentially what Harry Potter's parents did with him. And then
Oh my God.
if
and was sent to live with some terrible person.
right, exactly.
Right.
And then
Wow.
and then
The last
and then this
battle.
one was more obvious is when Ben Solo and Rey are in front of the Palpatine, and he starts sucking their life out like a
Yep.
Death Eater. I'm like, that one was
Even with the
obviously,
hood.
yeah,
Even with the hood.
exactly. I was like, and the special effect was even Death Eater. They were getting
I
life
know.
sucked out of them, and I know that's the storyline, but I was like, there's literally two glaring Harry Potter connections in the movie.
I actually thought the final battle with the two lightsabers and his lightning, I thought that was like Harry Potter.
I was actually a teeny bit disappointed that he dissolved.
Yeah.
I wanted her to do the thing. Whoosh,
Oh,
cut his head off,
head
just
off.
like
Yeah.
Dooku.
Dooku.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because that would have been the connection. Because Palpatine was at that too, right? He was the
Right.
one that made that happen.
Well, I mean,
Anyway.
and okay, obviously we're breaking it down and we're being pseudo-critical, but overall, I have to say that I enjoyed it. I did get emotional because I was 8 when I went and saw Star Wars with my father at the time. So I do agree that there will be people who will just absolutely fillet this thing to death. They'll hate it. They'll think nobody got whatever. It was politically incorrect. Whatever. They always come up with a million reasons why
it's
it's
the
bad.
lesbian kiss near
What?
the end.
Yes. They did that to keep people, satisfied.
You know
but
what? At the end of the day, this
It
is
was
a
very
block.
girl
This
power.
is a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
It's got. I will say the one thing that Disney has definitely done since getting a hold of Star Wars is they've marveled it, and they've Star Wars'd Marvel, right?
Yeah.
They've done those things to those movies, but I think that
I mean, what did you like about it, Tyler? Like,
So,
you had
other
to
than the
like
first
something.
half,
Okay, so
Well, even in the first half.
So yeah, so what I did like about it was in the first half it built upon a lot of just new ideas for a Star Wars
Universe.
like quest,
Yes,
what have
yes.
you. Like I think finding the compasses for the Sith planet was really interesting.
it.
Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
whole sequence of them finding
I
those
agree.
compasses was engaging. The writing was the writing was really questionable in a lot of scenes. Like it felt really forced. It didn't feel.
I agree.
It didn't
no
really.
pun intended.
Yeah. It didn't. The writing didn't feel super quality, but it actually, it's funny is. I thought the more dramatic scenes were the outstanding parts of the
I
movie,
agree.
not like the comedic reliefs in like the whole normal life humor. Like I didn't like that, but the whole dramatic scenes were
Really, really
were
good.
really good.
And that's actually something, honestly, the common thread in the early movies with the originals, so 4, 5, and 6, right, is the comic relief was the droids and Han Solo and Chewbacca. that has been the case. And by I don't mean they're not dramatic, but if you were going to get the zingy type of one-liners, and the fact is that for the most part, the actors in the new set, they don't pull it off nearly as well. Like they just don't pull it off.
The original Star Wars, like that was ad-libbed, and you had the charisma of Harrison Ford.
Right.
And it was just the sign of the times, you know, like it was just this crew of people making Star Wars in the 70s. It wasn't this Disney billion-dollar machine.
But it is a lot of there's a distinct difference in the acting quality in all of the Star Wars movies.
Yeah. It feels scrappy in the original ones.
Right. So like I thought Billy D. Williams was fucking fantastic in this movie. He didn't have a lot, but I thought he was cool as a cucumber, and he was awesome, and he pulled off the humor, right?
Yeah, because,
or the drama.
Because he's a good actor.
Like one of my favorite scenes.
I thought Adam Driver, by the way, was just amazing.
Everything
he did.
He was better in this movie than he was originally as Kylo Ren.
He had like 8 words to say, but it didn't matter. No, he was so good.
He was definitely better.
Well, Adam Driver is a really good actor.
God, he's so exceptional.
And the thing is, though, I think, Adam Driver's career can't be scathed by any major budgeted movie because he is an actor that takes on very, like, indie roles and stuff. Like, he's, like, kind of like a Renaissance man, but...
I agree.
I think Daisy Ridley, I think this might end her career.
What? No. No way.
I think it
will. I don't think it's... Here's what I think about this, is that it is very, very... It's kind of like...
Girl can shed a tear on command, though.
It's kind of like Harry Potter actors. It's really hard...
to get out of it.
When you're in a franchise like this...
Yeah.
It's very difficult to ever be seen as anything else. Yeah. Literally... Like 80% of the civilized world is going to see this movie. Yeah. Like it's like really hard to get out of that. Take what's the Harry Potter actor? Why am I blanking on his name?
Tyler, I don't know. You remember?
But what else?
Weasley's character?
No.
Oh,
Harry Potter's character.
Daniel Radcliffe.
I mean, he has really tried to do something else.
He became a horse. He became a horse in a movie.
I'm just going to shamelessly plug The Lighthouse, starring Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. Robert Pattinson, star of Twilight.
Yeah, but Twilight is nowhere near the franchise that these are.
See The Lighthouse, out January 4th.
I know.
Well, okay, but okay, so...
Anyway, a little off track, but my point is that Star Wars has been known for, like, George Lucas actually started, he didn't want to put Harrison Ford in Star Wars.
No, it
originally
was Burt Reynolds.
And you know why, though? Do you know why he didn't want to put Harrison Ford in? Because he doesn't use actors twice. And he had already used him for American Graffiti. He didn't want to do it. Yep. But he called Harrison in to help read these people and couldn't help it. And so now one of my favorite comedic scenes is in Force Awakens. It's not even, it's like a more recent movie, not one of the originals, is when they find the Millennium Falcon again, and those two gangs come and they find them, and he's like, and he's just like, he pulls off the humor in Star Wars better than any actor, and that's just,
Harrison Ford is lightning in a bottle.
He really is.
My favorite comedic scene in this movie, actually, is when Lando hits on the young woman at the end of the movie.
I agree.
And no context whatsoever. It was just like, oh, hey, I want to get to know you more. And then it just cuts. Like, instantly. I was just...
He's still slick.
But the thing is, there was like... So, this is what I really...
Care to find out?
He was a player, man. And
those damn capes. He had a badass cape on in this movie.
I always liked the Lando character. I think I liked him even more after seeing Solo. Yeah. Even though it was a different actor, just the idea of getting that backstory from that movie was great. Yeah. Solo's your favorite, right?
Solo is my favorite Star Wars standalone film. Mm-hmm. But so what I do really like about this movie throughout the whole movie was the music.
Yeah.
The music was it was loud. It was actually really loud in a lot of scenes, like drowning out the dialogue of the characters sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was so beautifully done.
So-
like it definitely evokes.
I'm going to
feelings.
recommend this for you. There's a podcast that's actually up for a podcast award this year. Blockbuster is the name of the podcast. And the story about the connection between George and Steven and John Williams and how that comes about is crazy.
I know a little bit about that story, but I would be interested in hearing.
It's a short, it's like a
specifics.
6-episode one, right? And it's produced and it's really well done, but I enjoyed that one. But
I would say that the what is it? The score of this film, isn't that it? The score
the
of the
score.
film? Well, I think it'll be nominated for an Oscar.
John
no
Williams
doubt.
is off the charts.
But
In fact,
it evoked a lot of emotion.
This was definitely arguably the best
Yeah.
Star Wars movie musically.
Agreed.
so here's the thing that it's interesting you say that because it was John Williams's, what you'll learn in the Blockbuster podcast, it was John Williams's idea to have music specific to each character in the movie because there's so many characters. So like you and I talked about it while we were watching the movie when Luke is lifting the his
X-Wing?
Red 5, his X-Wing out of the water, very much like Yoda did in the movie where he lifted it out of the swamp water. Exact same music, and I could have been blind and known what was happening in
Yeah,
that scene,
exactly.
right?
That's awesome.
That's the power of the score of Star Wars. Though,
Agreed.
it's very iconic.
See, that's the kind of stuff that I did not know. Like, I would never have known that was the music.
Yeah,
Never.
I knew it immediately, and I was like,
Right.
In fact, I'm sitting there, and you didn't see me, but I do. There's this very big crescendo in the original movie when that happens.
Did it happen?
And it goes,
Oh.
dun, 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 and it was just like this. I'm like, ah!
That's awesome.
I did a little fist pump
Yeah.
because it's the perfect thing, right? Like, I mean, this lore is not, and you'll learn this and you'll hear this in Blockbuster too in the podcast, but they don't say it this way. But the premise is that George Lucas is a genius storyteller and all of those things. But at the end of the day, he did a soap opera in space. That's what this is all about.
Right.
And so if you just like the storytelling and take the saga for what it is, I mean, for me, there was no way this movie sucks.
Right.
There's no way.
Right.
It's not in me for me to allow.
Well, it's your
I mean,
childhood.
it's
your childhood. You started loving this when you were 7 years old.
right, and it's not just been the childhood. It's been the entire life. I'm sitting in front of you wearing a Star Wars shirt.
Right.
My truck has a Star Wars license plate on it. I have the solo dice on my mirror. Like it's a meaningful thing to me because it was a big part of my life
Well,
growing
I don't
up.
think
So it
think
was
you're
hard
alone.
for me, and that's why I think I was hesitant to do this is because I know Mr. Film critic here is going to come at it from a more but that's
Analytical.
okay. The right brain left brain thing works for me, and I'm glad we did it. But for me, I have to see it at least twice more.
Right.
But I wish that I had done, like I said, I wish I had done it in the opposite order. I wish I had not looked for things because I caught, and again, I could be wrong. There could be more to catch, but I caught a lot.
Yeah,
like
I did
like
too.
like I don't know if you noticed, but
It was a very fan servicey movie.
Oh, I
this
read
was
that, yeah.
but did he have a choice?
No,
Right, exactly.
No, he
So,
did.
like you didn't really have a
I-
choice. Like if you think the critics are going to come out about, oh, the first half was this, the second half was that, and they're going to do all this, you know, J.J. Abrams and that whole team will take that all day long compared to the Star Wars fans going, you fucked this up.
Right.
Like I will
Yeah,
take
see, I
a film
don't-
critic going, not okay, and make
yeah.
billions of dollars.
See, I don't think he fucked it up.
I don't either.
I don't think he fucked it up. Here's my problem with the new Star Wars trilogy is that with all of the resources that Star Wars has in the past, all the world building, all of the lore, they chose to kind of wing it in a way. And I think that is unacceptable for $1 billion corporation
I
like
would agree
Disney
with you
to
on
do
that.
that.
Minimized.
But at the same time, though, I think that it wasn't
and
as bad as it could have been.
Your pun, your the pun you gave earlier was exactly it. If I had one massive critique of this movie, is that I was forcing a shit ton of stuff into one movie.
Right.
Yes.
Like, and in hindsight, I would have rather had 2 movies or sat there for 4 hours. Like I needed
Hey,
Like Return
like-
of the King.
like
Lord of the
just
Rings.
like
honestly, we just sat through 3.5 hours of The Irishman and nothing happened. We
Yeah,
could
it
have
was
easily
boring.
done 3.5 hours of Star Wars.
the only reason we
Easily.
lasted through that movie is because the actors in it. I mean, that
Yeah,
was the
but I
only real
mean,
reason.
The lore alone, I mean, I did appreciate that they did a callback to all of the old planets that everybody's from, and we got to see an Ewok, and they did all of that stuff to, I assume, satisfy fans.
It was so funny. Like, that was the worst kept secret, by the way, the Ewok thing.
So when I heard that Palpatine was in the system of Endor, I was like, oh my god, we're going to see cult-like Ewoks worshipping a crippled, disabled Palpatine hooked to life support. You have these gray Ewoks
So-
affected
That
by
would've
the
been
Sith
hilarious.
light.
What's the actor's name, Tyler? He's been in a
for
million
Willow?
things. He was
The
in
Willow
Willow. He was
actor?
in, yeah. Anyway, he's the guy that played
The Ewok.
that played the main Ewok and Wicket. And
Oh, I wouldn't know that.
yeah, so you might not know Wicket, but this guy, he's other than Peter Dinklage, there's no small person more famous than this guy in terms of actors.
Right.
But
Oh, is
but
it that
but
one guy who played in that like medieval movie in
Yes.
the 70s?
Willow, and he played in Willow,
that-
and he
is
was a
that-
bunch of different things. But
Yes.
but the thing is that he
got
was at all the
hits.
premieres. He's been social mediating,
So
so everybody knew
obviously-
that like who else could he be? He was going to be the
Ewoks
Ewok.
were
so-
coming.
right? So but I was actually glad that it was very like brief. It was more of a.
It was more of like
that Star Wars ending was a very traditional
Farewell.
Star Wars ending.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Like, I mean,
You're right, they
whenever
do
the good
that.
side wins, the end of the movie
There's a
is
celebration.
planet-wide.
Yes.
Planets are always celebrating. You always see that happens all the time. This
I'm just
this
so glad
movie was
I am just
formulaic, but it needed to be longer or split.
I'm just
because
glad-
I'm with you. I wanted that first half like if you didn't know this was the end, they could have taken that first half of the movie and turned that into a movie by itself.
Yeah.
And not had to have
Had
all
a
this
cliffhanger.
conclusion. Right.
So I besides all of the criticisms as a movie being made and being a good movie just alone from separating my love for Star Wars, I would have to say that the soundtrack was great. Mm-hmm. The first half was really good, and Adam Driver really takes it back home.
yeah.
I really, there's so much potential as in a trilogy after Return of the Jedi. It's hard to accept that, so it was a Star Wars ending. Yeah, it really was. But there was nothing. I wanted more at risk. Like, I wanted main characters dying left from right.
That's what I
Tyler,
expected.
You could watch a Winnie the Pooh cartoon and you want Winnie the Pooh to die at the end. Like,
That's
that's how
true.
you are.
You're so
Actually, no,
emo.
it'd be Piglet dying in Pooh's arm.
Oh, right.
Actually, no, realistically, Al would have killed Piglet and Rabbit because he's an owl.
Oh my
He's
God.
friends with prey. So
And it'd be
honestly,
a Tigger versus Owl battle. And
Tigger
then-
would have killed, Tigger and Pooh would have battled. They're
Yeah.
tigers and bears, for God's sake. And what are they
Oh
doing in
my.
the forest?
So anyway, I wanted more. For it being the ending of the Skywalker saga, not a whole lot was lost. Like,
Yeah,
like
I actually would agree with that. I think that, but
I would want
here's
to
the
see
thing.
Poe die. Actually, that would have been a heroic death.
I thought that was going to be Finn's actual
well,
thing, and
here-
it wasn't. He got saved by
Here's
Lando.
the thing: is I feel like I actually agree with you because although we had already been through that with Solo and Luke,
True.
and so the easy thing to do would have been to kill off all the key characters. But I think that you absolutely could have gotten away with a Finn or a Poe dying. For sure, one of the newer characters.
Heroic save.
Right, something good that could have put you kind of in that. But
Yeah.
I will say, and we haven't talked about it yet,
Yeah.
but at no point did I notice the the parts that Carrie Fisher couldn't do.
Oh,
Right,
yeah,
like,
no,
they did
that was
that
seamless.
seamless.
That was
So
seamless.
Yeah.
everything about Carrie Fisher in
Super
this movie
seamless.
was
It
perfectly
was.
done.
And it sucked that they couldn't have her more in.
Except
And
when
so-
they CGI'd her face in the past.
Well, that was the
they-
ghost thing, though. That's not. Here's what I will say is this is my personal feeling, because obviously she is one of the OGs, and I wish
Sure.
as well as they did it, I would have loved to have seen her actually be in it.
Yeah.
Like I would have loved to have seen her finish this
Yeah.
saga and be alive long enough
Force
to make
choke
that happen.
Palpatine.
Something
Oh.
or what? Like even if they kept the role exactly the same, to have her do it in that way and not have it kind of piecing things together and just
Sure.
kind of develop, because they probably would have absolutely had her in it more if
She
she was
probably
alive.
would have been
so.
a much larger part of the
Yeah.
movie.
So,
What were you gonna
but
say?
you know,
I was
but
going to say,
badass.
I have one last thought about
Okay.
this movie, and this is regarding the first half. So, Kylo, he mentions that he wants Rey to join him so they can both kill Palpatine together. Mm-hmm. I wish it went into that direction.
I thought it was going to.
Because if it went into that direction, that would have been a lot more character development
There would have been-
between them, because they
Yeah.
would be co-conspirating force like telekinesis
Yes.
while he's serving Palpatine, you know, like kind of being like a General Hux,
Yeah.
except not getting shot down like a bitch.
God, he did too, didn't he?
And,
He got
I'm the spy. Thanks, Captain Obvious.
It was coordinated.
okay. We found the spot.
So that's what I mean about nothing being at risk, though, because you know there could have been like Rey seemingly going to the dark side at the after the second act, and then everyone would be like, "Oh my God, Rey!"
Here's
was
what
to
I
the
tell
dark
you.
side. But
Yeah.
This movie's
I'm
Yeah.
not involved.
this
in the movie
movie's
industry,
way
so-
better.
Yeah.
This movie's way better, and of course, I loved it because it's hard for me not to. But this movie's way better if it's not the last movie,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that's
If-
exactly
if-
what I was
because
thinking.
they had no choice. They had to wrap it up, and
Yeah.
they had to do certain things to get this done to keep the fan base, myself included, satisfied. And I am satisfied.
Yeah.
I think if
As a
there's
fan, you're
anything,
satisfied.
if there's anything disappointing about it, is it's over. And actually, seeing what I saw tonight, I actually wish there was maybe 2 more left,
Yeah.
right? And that we weren't so confined to the trilogy
agree.
thing, like, because I agree with you, Tyler. I think the finding of the compasses,
That was amazing.
That was good.
I mean, we could have absolutely played out for 45 minutes this whole Kylo Palpatine manipulation, who's
Yeah.
doing what, and
Yeah.
plotting against that, but we couldn't because we had to skip to the part where everybody gets a cameo and everybody gets the hero moment, and
Yeah.
and I think, you know, and that's, I mean. So it's not disappointing in that I'm upset with the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely, it was absolutely satisfying.
As a fan, you were satisfied.
Am I happy it's over? Absolutely not, but I knew that before I even went into the movie. But I think
Yeah.
I think seeing the movie actually makes me think, if we weren't so trilogy oriented, we
They could have
could
made
have
this- they could have
pulled
fleshed
we could have
this
pulled
out.
another 2 movies out
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many out of 10, how many Baby Yodas do you give it, Tyler?
Baby Yodas.
I would.
Can we talk about that before we
Okay,
stop?
you're right, yes.
Okay,
What?
so super genius move, and
Tyler,
you
are
didn't
you
know.
caught up on The Mandalorian?
No, I'm not. But
I'm actually
I do
shocked
have.
the
I do
Mandalorian's
have
your speed.
I do have a thought on what happens after the Skywalker saga.
Okay, please tell us.
But Mandalorian's not after Skywalker, though.
No, I mean,
Okay.
as far as
Okay.
the movie, like they're gonna continue on with the Star Wars universe without. So, anyways, I am hopeful for it because I think the higher ups at Disney realize we just need to have these individualistic Star Wars stories.
I
like
love
that's
them.
what's successful.
So-
Even though
Well,
everyone
and,
says
and now they have the platform in Disney Plus to do that. So, because I think the feedback on The Mandalorian has been ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Right?
Tremendous.
Like, why is it taking us so long to do a Star Wars television series that wasn't animated, right? Partly because it's expensive.
Well,
but
people want to see episodic
Right.
stuff now.
So-
I mean,
Yeah.
like you see
but-
it with Watchmen.
So,
Yeah, that's
again, the spoiler alert here is that they were supposed to release episode 7 of The Mandalorian tomorrow.
Right.
They chose, and I don't know if you knew this, Tyler, they chose to release it They moved it up and released it the day before, so we saw it yesterday. It makes 100% sense now,
Right?
Because in episode 7, spoiler alert, Baby Yoda uses force healing, which
heals
almost
somebody.
never has happened.
Nope.
There's been reference to it in the lore, but you've never seen it happen in a movie. You've never really, like, maybe one of the cartoons you've seen it, but like,
that's my problem with it though too, because also in that lore though, it's a dark side power.
Yeah, no,
first of all,
it's not completely dark side. That's actually not true.
But nobody has said that Baby Yoda is a good guy.
No, of course, but my point is,
He could be horribly evil.
It's only been a dark side power because
that would be hilarious.
That little
they
fuck
refer
is
to-
60 years old already.
Yeah. And he can afford to give up some of his life, which is interesting. So, because I've got another 900 years to go, healing somebody's no big deal.
Right. But yes, there was force healing in this movie.
Yeah, it made more sense because people were already talking about it, and they did it like 3 times in this movie, and they hadn't ever done it in a movie. So, so it was interesting. Why you had to do a snake? Another Harry Potter reference.
Oh my god!
Snake. Oh my god! I just thought of that. So, all right. So back to your ratings.
Oh
system.
yeah. So out of 10, how many Baby Yodas do we give it, Tyler?
I give it a cool 4.5 out of 10.
Whoa, you are harsh. You are harsh.
It's only because I love Star Wars lore so much that it could have I changed my rating because I'm used to rating on a 5-star level.
Okay.
So out of 10 Baby Yodas, I'll give it a 6.
That's good. That's really good for you.
6. That's what I would give for The Force Awakens.
Would you see it again?
I would see it again.
Just to kind of get a more flesh out your opinion on it.
Where do you think it ranks out of? Take the Solos and the Rogue Ones out of it. Let's just take the 9 out of the 9. Your gut reaction of where it sits. It's hard because it kind of wraps up the story, but
okay. So I'm just gonna go through my ratings now of all of them. So 1, Empire.
No
2,
question.
New Hope. 3.
Interesting. You have New Hope that high.
Yeah.
Wait, is New Hope with Darth Sidious?
No, New Hope is the very first one.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was the 7th.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry.
Emperor, New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and then Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
You have Phantom Menace over this.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes,
Tyler,
I do. I do. And
I'll tell you why. It's emotional for him.
It's a little more age appropriate.
He was 12, and I took him to the midnight showing. That's why.
Phantom Menace, Force Awakens, what is this called? Rise of Skywalker? I already forgot the name.
Film class, middle class, Tyler.
Rise of Skywalker, Attack of the Clones, and then The Last Jedi.
So you put it at the bottom?
No, The Last Jedi is at the bottom.
No, but towards the bottom.
Yeah.
So this goes to the bottom, but it would have had to exceeded my expectations so much because those first 5 movies,
for you, that's it. They're solid.
And so the Phantom Menace, the reason why that is so high on the list is because it established a world building aspect of Star Wars. It wasn't a great movie and it had some weird aspects, and besides the pacing point
That's
of
technically episode 1, right?
Yes.
So the reason I have that in my top 3 or 4.
What are yours? In order.
Similar, but mine are because nostalgic, right? Empire Strikes Back is absolutely number 1.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I think that does not put either of us in unique space. I think most Star Wars fans would tell you that Empire Strikes Back is the best
That's
one.
where Yoda comes in, right?
It's
Yoda is in that movie, but the reason why is because there's a lot at stake. There's incredible editing.
Well, generally speaking, except for Last Jedi, the middle movie in each trilogy is the most interesting.
Oh, okay.
Because
it's the guts
here's
of
what
everything.
happens. Bad guys in episode 1, or good guys in episode 1, Everybody's fighting episode 2. Episode 3, good guys come back. Like that's how trilogies work.
And that's pretty much how they've stayed true to that, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. This was a little surprisingly, to me, traditional third Star Wars movie.
Maybe that was the whole point.
Ending.
That was probably the whole point.
It's not the whole point. He had no choice.
That's what I mean.
I feel like I'm watching this movie going, this is great. He had no fucking option.
Yeah,
he had to tie. Well, I told you weeks ago.
This is where I'm gonna shine.
Right. I told you weeks ago that I had read an interview or read some kind of quote from J.J. Abrams. He goes, "We will absolutely tie everything up. We cannot fuck this up.
Right.
Like it can't. We cannot leave anything untied.
Right.
Right. And
they will literally kill me.
They literally will kill me.
They will. Have
so
you seen them? Although he just has to climb up one flight of stairs.
So this is unrelated, Tyler, but I just read this, so it's up there. So The Mandalorian episode 3 and episode 7 are directed by the same person. Her name's Deborah Chow. And for me,
incredible director.
3 and 7 have been the two best.
They were the best.
She's doing all of the Kenobi.
I heard that.
All of the Kenobi
that'll be
show.
fun.
So what do you rate this? So what do you rate this
what
movie?
is out of how many? Out of 10 Baby Yodas.
It's a full ass. It's a full ass Baby Yoda.
Emotionally, and 42 years invested in this thing,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 10. But and that's only because of the emotion.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 7.
Oh, that's
7.5,
good. You guys are pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was interesting because I felt like I watched 2 movies. Right?
It did
I felt
feel
like
separate,
I felt
yes.
like the first half felt like a Star Wars movie that wasn't trying to wrap up, and then it was like
Suddenly,
holy shit! Like how he even got it into 2.5 hours is remarkable. It would have felt to me he easily could have had a 4 hour.
I'll be curious if there's a director's cut. I'll be curious if there's a director's cut. Because I bet there is.
I hope there.
No Jar Jar Binks either.
Well, here's the thing: is if there is a director's cut, I hope there's not like useless scenes they add into there though, like the casino scene in the Last Jedi.
Yeah, it was horrible.
So, Del Toro never came back.
I know, and I love that guy.
He was the best part of The Last Jedi.
I agree.
Never comes back, and he was the.
Now he's just the collector.
He's the collector. He can't be part of Star Wars and Marvel. Sorry.
That's too bad because he was really great.
Yeah, he was really good. I think there was a missed opportunity of getting like real big stars in this movie too.
But that does stick with the Star Wars formula. Nobody. Like there's never been a star in a Star Wars formula in a Star Wars movie. They may have become stars because they were in the Star Wars movie, but Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill was a nobody, Carrie Fisher was a nobody. All those people were nobodies leading up to
underwear boom mic guy.
Yeah, so I think that Harrison Ford was fixing doors when he got the American Graffiti role.
Can you imagine Harrison Ford fixing your door?
Yes. That guy. I grew
I'm here
up.
to fix your door.
Here's what I'll close, and I'm already being more talkative than I need to be. But here's the thing: I am the epitome of the trilogy generation.
Right.
Like, if you forced me to say, do you like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, or Back to the Future more? It would be Star Wars, and then the other two would be tied, right? Like, it's hard for me because it's just such an identifying
I don't think
part.
there's anything wrong with that.
I just think that theory is just like
wait, you don't like the lore of Kroll?
No. or I never liked Lord of the Rings. Like, I like the movies, they're fine, but
bite your tongue.
I know that's you, but I just
they could have flown the bird and flung the ring into a volcano.
Joseph, if you're reading this, I'm so sorry.
You know what's funny is we were walking out of the movie theater and Malia and I goes, I'll go to that with you, and it's so dumb. It's I'm absolutely gonna take her to see Call of the Wild.
With Harrison Ford.
Because it's Harrison Ford.
Yes.
So.
Oh, I thought.
It's Han Solo, actually. Han Solo!
Han Solo starring in.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So
that was Carrie Russell. She was maybe the only well-known actress in the movie.
First of all, she was hot. New. She was wearing an awesome, sexy uniform. And she was a badass.
The best. You want to know my favorite comedic scene? Had no lines in it. It was at the end where Poe and the Carrie Russell character look across at each other.
And he gives her a look like, can I kiss you now?
Can I kiss you now? And she's like,
all,
nope.
no.
But no words were ever spoken, and I thought it was funny.
But
even Malia laughed. She was like, ah.
Well, actually, and just the very, very last thought, I want to see Oscar Isaac reprise his role as Poe in his own movie.
I would agree with you. His backstory could be really interesting.
I love Oscar Isaac as an actor. He's been
good
in some of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So I think that he could really pull off a Solo-esque kind of movie.
Because I think they're grooming him for that.
I think that they proved already with Solo that they can make a movie without Jedis, without Skywalkers. Like Solo had nothing to do with the Force at all. So I hope that they give him more work, and I hope it's in the presence of someone competent as well.
Okay, so anyway. Tyler, you are here to help us promote your podcast with Peter, Joseph, and you, Tyler.
And sometimes Lucas.
Who is just a crying cat. What is the name of your podcast?
Okay, so I'm shilling for Middle Class Film Class. Please, we're on all major streaming formats: Spotify, iHeartRadio, what have you. I'm not a part of that.
Apple Podcast.
You're just a talking head.
He's just the talent.
He's just the talent.
I'm just the talent and the Instagram model of our show.
Okay.
So you guys can check it out. This week, spoiler alert, we are reviewing Blair Witch Project, 1999's Blair Witch Project, a very divisive movie.
Wow. I love that movie.
So please like and subscribe.
What other podcast
Middle
could you get? Bridge over River Kwai,
and then the Blair Witch
Witch, and George of the Jungle, all on the same podcast.
Middle Class Film Class, everybody. Find them on iTunes. Thank you for listening to our full of spoiler, Ugly Extra, Rise of Skywalker. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.